Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about binging versus week-to-week content. Obviously, this is a conversation I've had once before. If I remember correctly, it was basically about about 3 or so years ago, because it was roughly around the time Mandalorian season 1 I think was out and Stranger Things season 3. But obviously this is more so specifically about Netflix, because this is a conversation a lot of people have had about Netflix, because Netflix has been the forefront at the forefront of binge content, of releasing everything all at once, and kind of what that ends up entailing and the whole conversation behind that, which I think is always an interesting conversation. I want to say even back then I was always a week-to-week person. Maybe I wasn't always. I'm trying to remember, like, once again, it was like 3 years ago, so I'm sure my opinion about it has changed. Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. Maybe I've always been a week-to-week person, but I am someone who does watch quite a bit of stuff that is, that's dropped all at once, but I am also someone who mainly has always watched week-to-week content, so but obviously, like I said, this is more so about Netflix, because obviously with everything going on with Netflix and the conversations around TV shows, the communal nature of like television kind of gets taken away when it's like, hey, you've only got 1 weekend to binge this show, because like everyone's talking about this one weekend, and after that it's done because people quickly move on to the next thing. So obviously that's, from the very beginning I asked, what is something that you prefer? And like I said, I do prefer week to week, because I like being able to sit on something, like, because I'm the type of person, not only because I do reviews, but I also like, I like discussing stuff. I like taking time theorizing about what stuff can be and throw out my theories and stuff. But that's also me. Like, I know that's not everyone's thing. Some people just want to devour something and then move on. But I think certain content would lend itself very nicely to like a week to week format. But also, it's like, it's easy to say that when we live, like, take a Stranger Things, for example. It's easy to be like, man, I wish I had week to week to like dive in on that and kind of enjoy it. But then you go like, but then like all we've ever known is binging it. So that's just an interesting, having access to all of it at once. And, it's when you don't know the other side of it, it's always interesting, because you take something like The Boys. The Boys' first entire season was dropped at once, but season 2 and 3, and I'm assuming they're going to do this continuing going forward, since they did do it with season 3, was the first 3 episodes released at once, and then every subsequent episode was week to week. So I think that's the preferred like release schedule, because it seems like a lot of stuff lends itself to that now. Like, because I know HBO Max kind of does that with quite a bit of its content. Hulu can do that from time to time, but sometimes they also flip to like the week to week, and obviously, like I said, Prime Video. But Netflix is the only one that stays like primarily with the binge all at once model. They have made exceptions, but like 90% of their content is dropped all at once. There have been some exceptions where they have like they've tested the water with other material, where they've tried like, oh, let's release this like every week or something like that. One show I watched is this Korean drama called Bugaso Immortal Souls. It was released every 2 episodes a week. There was an episode released on Saturday and an episode released on Sunday, and then like you get the next episode the following week. They did this for 8 weeks until the show ended up completing. I don't know if that's just something Netflix decided, or whether that was in correspondence with maybe how it was being released in Korea. Maybe that's where like that international licensing deal, maybe they kind of had to more so adhere to what was happening in Korea rather than here. Or maybe that was just a decision they made. It's not that often that you get that, because there are other Korean dramas like The Silent Sea, as well as Squid Game, which were dropped all at once. So maybe, once again, maybe it just comes down to a licensing deal. Maybe even internationally, all that was dropped at once, but maybe this particular series I was watching internationally, at least in Korea, was being week to week. I don't know. But to me, that's a model I could get behind, where it's like, hey, you want to release something maybe 1-2 episodes a week, I'm fine with that. Or once again, follow the Prime Video or even Hulu thing of like 2 or 3 episodes at the top, then the rest week to week. But that's an easy conversation to have, because Netflix has built this binge model for years. If you obviously you'd have to slowly implement it. Well, they've tested the water here and there, but it's never been with any of their like major franchises, And if they did that, maybe, but also it's like, right, they're the ones with the numbers. I mean, maybe there's a reason why they still keep doing the binge thing, even when other people have kind of taken that model and adopted it. Maybe it's a conversation of, well, analytically, it benefits them to drop it all at once. But, you know, it is about retention and stuff like that. That's what any platform, and, you know, Netflix being a streaming platform, would want is retention. So you'd think a week-to-week format would be better for them. But once again, well, they were only player in the game back in the day, so that kind of benefited them. I guess also, like, right, with so much content coming out on a daily basis, movies, TV shows, it's kind of like, I guess you got to get it out, let the people who are going to watch it, and hope that they move on to something else that gets recommended to them. I don't know. It's an interesting situation, like I said, because I am someone, like, a couple years ago, I used to binge everything when it dropped on Netflix. I'd spend the weekend binging it. That's not always the case anymore, just because I'm watching so many TV shows and stuff like that. Plus, I also like juggle doing reviews and stuff like that. Once again, that's just a me thing. Not everyone like watches television in that same capacity that I do. So for me, it might take me a little bit longer to finish something that gets dropped all at once. Obviously, there are exceptions, but for me, just the nature of how I like enjoying television now, because even stuff that gets dropped all at once, like a Stranger Things, for the past, couple months, I want to say, I've been doing it. I have, when it comes to things that got dropped all at once, I have been binging. I have not been binging them. I've been, watching them one episode at a time and then doing my review for them. So whereas before I used to binge the entire season and then... So that's also a little bit, is the difference, that plays a difference in how I approach binge and week-to-week content. Once again, that's just, because it also means you have to wait even longer for a new season. At least with normal television, it's like, typically speaking, you might get like 9 months to a year out before you get, obviously, there's a conversation, and I think I probably brought this up previously, was a conversation of, well, does binging help you, do you remember more when you binge or more week to week? I feel like I remember way more week to week. Yeah, I might not remember all the nuance of certain things, but I'll remember like some of the more bigger plot points. And when it comes to binging, I will remember the vaguest notions of major plot points. So it's just an interesting the conversation to be had. Like I said, I just think it's so interesting considering that Netflix is the only one that's kind of all in on this model. Once again, Hulu's in that middle ground because there's some stuff that goes week to week and there's other stuff they drop all at once. So I guess that always just kind of depends on series. I wonder what makes them decide to do that. Because some of the stuff is like comedies that they'll drop all at once, but then other things is like there's other comedies that go week to week. So it's interesting how that works out. So I feel like there's no clear distinction between what it just comes down to. We decided to do this and we decided to do this another way. It's fascinating. Once again, I've had this conversation before, but like I said, things have kind of changed, and now like we've seen other examples of how other streaming services handle it. Now it kind of makes Netflix stand out even more because it is the only one that's still kind of going down that route. So, but I mean, that kind of leads myself to my question. What do you prefer? Do you prefer binging? Do you prefer week to week? Do you prefer, once again, the drop 2-3 episodes, give you a little taste at the beginning, and then give me week to week? Or are you fine like, no, 1 episode a week is fine, even from the very beginning? Or maybe you're just in a situation where you're like, nah, give me like 2-3 episodes a week, like the Bugasu Immortal Souls, that was 2 episodes a week. Station 11, that was like what? I want to say that was 3 episodes, and then every subsequent week was 2 episodes released. Which model seems more appealing to you, and has your mind changed? Like, were you someone that was all about binging before, and now you prefer week to week? Or has it gotten to the point that you're like, no, like you still prefer binging, being able to see it all at once, because maybe you're just impatient and don't want to wait? I could totally get that. Like when you're like, oh, I just want to hurry up and see how this plays out. You rather like go ahead and see it rather than like that building of anticipation from week to week. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. I think it always continues to be a very interesting conversation, and I'd love to see where everyone's coming from on this subject, especially if you're someone whose mind is changing, especially if you're someone whose mind hasn't changed at all. So let me know all your thoughts. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.